Welcome back to the True Potential Women's Summit. I'm so excited to introduce you to our next guest. Her name is Katie Phillips, and she is a self love expert. She focuses on daring greatly and to be able to really live a fully expressed life and really be in authentic truth with who you are and really loving from within so that we can have loving connections with others. So, thank you so much, Katie, for being here today.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I was hoping to give you a more beautiful backdrop from sunny Barcelona, but I'm holed up in a little cubicle somewhere where it's quiet. But I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yes, wonderful. Well, tell me a little bit about your journey around really what drew you in this phase in your young adulthood to focus on self-love.
Well, the old adage, we teach what we need to learn. And I didn't ever set out to become a self-love coach or to write a book about self-love or speak on the subject. It totally chose me. In fact, if I look back on myself sort of 10, 20 years ago, I was working in corporates, and me back then probably would have been pretty cynical about what I teach now. So I'm just going to close this. It's getting a bit noisy again. So it's pretty interesting. It absolutely chose me. And it's really that piece that, yeah, teach what we have to learn. And my the beginnings of my story, I suppose, it goes back to when I was 22, so like 20 years ago, and my mum actually took her own life. And as you can imagine, that was pretty traumatic.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and that was on the back of many years of her being clinically depressed. And I grew up in that environment, and we had a happy family. As a kid, though, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I didn't realize that there was depression going on and anxiety and a hell of a lot of stress and some alcoholism thrown in. I didn't know.
Right.
Um, and I've come to understand it had a profound impact on me and how I was functioning in my adult life. When my mum actually took her life, I didn't respond particularly positively. I just went into coping mode,
Right.
the
Survival.
total survival. I was the eldest daughter. I just handled everything. I organized the funeral. I kind of went into coping mechanism. And then I was still only in my early 20s. And I was just beginning out on my corporate career. So I just threw myself into my career. I threw myself into my boyfriends. I threw myself into having adventures and so on. So it was all around getting my own sense of self and significance outside of me, not from within me. And I didn't know I was doing that. Meanwhile, behind all of that, there was this victim thing going on. Like I was basically walking around with this big T-shirt saying, my mother committed suicide. So that was kind of like underneath it all as well. So I didn't take away any kind of positive learning from mum's death. I just coped. I performed really well. I was a real high achiever. Um, and then emotionally, I was a victim to something really traumatic, which affected all of my relationships, kind of affected everything.
And I
And then,
think I think one thing that you mentioned, I think we as children, we internalize that. So, even if things are not have nothing to do with us as kids, we automatically, in order to feel a sense of power around it, we kind of make it ours, even though it's not, even though the mom's depression or alcoholism or chaos or conflict, we, in a way, because it's the way that our brain is developed and in that developmental phase, we actually just absorb it and make it ours. And that's where I think the fracture of self-love comes from, when we internalize what's going on externally and make it about us, even if it's not. And that's where we carry this heavy burden and of
yeah,
pain
yeah, and
unnecessarily.
totally. And we take on some kind of belief that there's something wrong with us, that we are damaged, and that's just how it is. I mean, for many years after mum's death, I kind of, that was like, the nail in the coffin. It,
Right.
it was like, you obviously are damaged. Because there was all sorts of drama leading up to that moment. And I thought that was just who I was. It was like my identity. I was born into this family, into these experiences. I took on these beliefs, this conditioning and programming. and it all spelled kind of drama and disaster. And I just thought, well, I'm damaged. There's something wrong with me. I'm not enough in some way. And I carried that for many, many years. And you're right. It's about disconnecting from that belief that there's something wrong with you, and all that, all of these outside things going on in your family, whatever, are somehow who you are. It's not who you are.
Right.
And who you
Something's
are.
wrong with this situation
Right.
is more the reality.
But this and all these layers on top of the truth of who, my true spiritual self, which is just perfect as it is for everybody.
Right.
That's beautiful and perfect and more than enough. And I had to learn that. And my mom, I can see now, I've got the lesson. Like I get that her death was the ultimate gift of love, because she showed me, what life looks like and what it feels like when you don't love yourself. And it, that would just, that's what sent me on my own sort of spiritual journey and personal development journey. I discovered that you can create anything and really, really fall in love with yourself and have a beautiful experience of life, totally drama-free and peaceful and fulfilled.
Right.
And when I discovered that for me, I was like, well, clearly I can't keep this to myself. So
Right. Got to share. I have to share this.
yeah, I literally had to. It was the overflow, the self-love. You fill yourself up to the point where you can, it's responsibility to then share that.
Right. And I think when I think of like my little baby girl, she is pure love, and we all come into this world that way. And somewhere along the way, things get stuck to us and we forget, or we have amnesia that
I
we
think
are
we have,
that pure love, pure peace, pure divinity, for lack of a better term, just preciousness. And I
yeah,
think that's what I think is so needed in the world. So I love that you're doing the work that you do, and it actually is in very, very much alignment with what I do. And so I'm curious, with the women that you work with, what are some ways that you take them through that journey? What are some of the nuggets that you make sure that you help support them with along the way?
So it all starts with awareness. You've probably heard it's a bit of a car bumper sticker. Awareness is the first step to change, and it absolutely is. Like, you don't know what you're changing without creating awareness around it. The whole daring and mighty branding piece that you mentioned earlier is it's all about like daring to get into awareness, because a lot of us don't want to, because it's scary. And it's like, well, if I and something in you knows that if I create awareness about that piece, what does that mean? If I create awareness around my relationship, what does that mean for that relationship? Could it end? If I create awareness around my dissatisfaction in my career, or the way I'm contributing to the world, what does that mean for that career? Like, it could shake up everything I know. So the first step is daring to get conscious. It's daring to wake up to the truth of who you are and what's really going on for you. So that's kind of step one. Part of the awareness creation is noticing what on earth is going on in that beautiful brain of yours, and noticing the thought processes and what is self-loving and what's self-sabotaging. So most of us are on autopilot, and most of us have incredibly self-sabotaging beliefs and thoughts running on like autopilot, and we don't realize that they're actually directing the course of our life, and they're directing how we feel, and most importantly how we feel about ourselves. So it's the most crucial first step is getting awareness to what's going on in your mind, to understanding why. So a lot of the work I do actually is deep inner child work, where we go right back and we start to understand why you've taken on the beliefs and behavioral habits that you have, what you've taken on from other people, your carers when you were predominantly from 0 to 7 years old, and start to unravel that. And that is a daring journey, because it can be really painful and scary, and you really go back to that inner child place of total vulnerability. But unless we do, and unless we feel our way through it, and that's the other thing with this work, is you can't
You can't
intellectualize
do it from the neck up.
it is not from there. It's really dropping down. And,
Yes.
I work with women, and we women are so conditioned to be operating from here up, and we've forgotten our true nature is our heart and our spirit and our bodies. We forget that. So it's all about sort of dropping into that. And yeah, so really healing where these self-sabotaging beliefs and behavioral habits have come from. That's step one, and that takes a hell of a lot of courage and guts.
Mm.
And then, well, we move into, well, who are you? Like, who are you without, when you can strip back all the programming and the conditioning, and you can get back to your true sort of diamond self, the truth of who you are, and fall in love with her, and start to, you moving into a space of beginning a relationship with you, being your own best friend. I can share a whole bunch of tips and tools around that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's about becoming your own best friends.
Right.
Absolutely my best friend. And then from that place of real love and compassion and understanding, and best friendsness, it's not a word, with who you are, like, what do you
We'll
want?
create it. We'll create a word.
Best
New word.
friendness. Who are you? Like, what do you want? Because suddenly you're reset. You're literally doing Control Alt Delete on the programming that hasn't served you, and you're rebooting. You're like, well, who am I, and what do I want to create now from this place of love and compassion and understanding with myself?
Mm.
And the women I'm working with, they're then like, shit, I can go
I have
out
a
and
blank canvas.
yeah, like, what do I want to do? And they're amazed at what pops in, because suddenly they give themselves, this is the key, they give themselves permission
Mm-hmm.
to be and do and show up in the world the way they know they were born to. Not
Right.
because that's what mum and dad did, or that's what society approves of, or that's what looks good. It becomes like, what do I want? And again,
Right.
it's a daring journey, because that's uncomfortable in itself. Like, you'll lose friends along the way, you'll gain new ones. Things
Mm-hmm.
will change, relationships will end, careers change. It's a big shift
Right.
as you're kind of breaking free into who you came here to be.
Yes, and
Um,
I think two things are coming up for me. One thing, a lot of the women participating in the summit are go-getters, achievers, ambitious women. And I would imagine that core belief, if they have not done some of this deeper work, is I'm not enough. And
yeah,
so what that shows up in the outside world is a lot of busyness and a lot of proving and a lot of doing and a lot of filling from that place of there's not enough, I'm not enough, I can't get enough, I can't have enough. And so it puts people on this hamster wheel, never ending hamster wheel.
yeah, yeah.
So, and then so I'll hold off on my next question, but like, how can somebody with that level of programming of I'm not enough and are so familiar with that, because actually slowing down becomes really uncomfortable because you have
Yeah.
to deal with all the stuff that probably comes up to the surface. So, what sort of tips do you have for some of the women to actually, one, be willing to go to a place that's actually going to make them feel uncomfortable initially as they're shifting, downshifting?
Mm. Oh gosh, I feel like I've got so many answers to that. To simplify it, I mean, you use the word willingness, and that's really what it starts with. It's that willingness to do life differently. And I think willingness is an intention, right? So I think we're energetic beings, and as soon as you set an intention, the ripple effect happens. The wheels are in motion, and the universe conspires to support you. And shows you the way that's right for you. So there, in terms of like, how do I heal the I'm not enough piece, and how do I move away from overworking and filling time so that I feel significant and special in some way? Like, how do I change that behavior? There's not one way for everybody, I don't think. I really believe there's so many women, that you included me, there's so many people, not just women, people in the world teaching around self-love. And we all do it differently, and we all bring something different to the table. And I know for myself, when I realized I had my rock bottom and I realized I had to learn to love myself. I didn't know where to begin. I was like, shit, I didn't have any spiritual beliefs either. I wasn't remotely into the personal development world. Like, I knew nothing. I just knew that I was fast tracking to becoming my mum, and I didn't want to go down that path. And it was a willingness. It was literally, it was almost a prayer, even though I wasn't spiritual or religious. It was something has to change, and I don't know how. And really, the prayer is, and I learned this from Marianne Williamson when she does miracles, and her prayer I love and I use it, is, I'm willing to change. I don't know how, but I'm willing. No matter what it is in life, if you're angry with somebody you don't want to be, and you don't know how to not be angry, it's, I'm really angry with that person, but I'm willing not to be. And willingness, just the universe supports you. And for me, when I said that day, I can't deal with these feelings anymore of not feeling good enough.
Right.
The universe sent me what I needed. At first it was a line in a song, and then it was a book, and then it was a Louise Hay meditation around gratitude, and then it was my first coach, and then I did something called the Hoffman process. And like, my journey was my journey, and I just know that with that willingness, you will be shown the way. And for the women who are used to operating from here up, that's quite hard. It's like, show me how. I want tangible, absolute tools. And the feminine is all about surrender and release and handing it over. And I really believe that when a woman is willing and allows something bigger than her to come in and show her the way, it always does. I mean, my experience, it does time and time again. And my clients, it does time and time again. And another piece, I mean, this is where self-love comes in. It's, okay, you have a willingness to change something about yourself. In this case, it's the I'm not enough piece. Right then, it's so easy to give yourself a really hard time. It's so easy to go, ugh, because if you don't feel different after, I don't know, half a day or a week, you go, oh, see, I'm so damaged. I'm never going to be able to fix this. I'm just always going to be in overwhelm. Life's always going to feel hard for me, yada, yada, yada. And right there is that voice of zero compassion, zero love, zero understanding, just judgment. And when you notice that voice, you get to just notice it and go, oh, wow, okay, this is the awareness thing, yeah? Oh, I'm doing that thing where I beat myself up, and I'm talking to myself in a way that I would never speak to anybody else. Not my friend, not my colleague, not my child. I would never speak to anyone the way I'm speaking to myself. And, if it was a child learning to walk and she fell over and she fell over and she fell over, you wouldn't say, you idiot. Oh my God, you're so pathetic and damaged. Get up. You wouldn't. You'd say, oh, darling, oh my God, you so want to walk. Oh, you so want to get up. It's okay. Try again. Keep going. You can do it. And that's the voice. That's the self-love piece. That's the voice that needs to come in. And, you want to feel like you're good enough. You want to feel less stressed and less overwhelmed. Yeah, of course you do. And you deserve to. And I'm going to be your best friend, and I'm going to love you through it. And no one showed you how. No one explained to you how to do life in a way that makes you feel happy and authentically you. No one's shown you. But it's coming, and just keep going.
Yes, I think also the conversation with that critical voice is showing love and compassion to that voice. Like, wow, you're really scared.
Yes.
You're really overwhelmed. It's really
Yes.
hard to try something new and deal with this uncertainty. It's really
Yes.
hard to let go and not be in control, and
Yes.
that must be a really powerless feeling. And I think if we can also have compassion even for that critical voice rather than criticizing the critical voice, because I think
Exactly.
that that's where the
Yes.
gap happens. But if you actually show that love and compassion to that part that probably is just very scared and probably is where the initial wound of lack of integration happened in the first place. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
think
Yes.
that really speaking to that vulnerable place is part of where we unlock and create healing. So when that critical voice comes up, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just actually showing you what needs to be cleared or what needs to be
Yeah.
healed or where the
Yes.
love and compassion needs to be sent.
Bang on. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And that sounds simple, uh, but gosh, it takes practice. I mean, I've been a self-love coach for many years, and I am practicing this every day. Like every day, I have to remember that I have to remember to have compassion for myself. I have to remember to have understanding. I have to remember to notice the critical voices don't just suddenly disappear and I'm holding
Right.
up and
My
so in love with
magic wand.
and I ride a unicorn. It's not. It is. I think when you sign up to this work and you choose to do life differently, it is a daily piece. It's a daily check-in. That's why our daily rituals and our self-love practices are so important, is to constantly come back to me and have that connection with me and feel safe within me, and to remember I'm just human and I'm doing my best, and my humanness has me forget my true spiritual essence, and I'm daily overcoming my humanness and I'm loving my humanness, and I'm having that compassion for that mean ego voice daily, always, 24/7. It does get easier. It becomes a hell of a lot easier with practice, and it takes practice. Yeah.
Right. It's an ongoing conscious effort, but just like
Yeah.
when we take out the trash, right? When we do it more regularly, our house doesn't stink. And so, but if we let it accumulate and don't
Yeah.
take care of it, it
Yeah.
accumulates and things start to not smell so good.
Yeah. My
same
house
with
smelled like,
same with our thoughts.
yeah. No, like 10 years ago, my metaphorical house stunk. Now it's pretty rosy. I work at it. I work at it every day.
Right. It's like you exercise that muscle, which I think is also part of the other piece that I wanted to move into is dealing with uncertainty, right? So as we deal with uncertainty, especially ambitious women, like being in that real true feminine of the
Mm,
surrender, of the
mm,
allowing, of the
mm.
not knowing how it's going to go, because obviously the feminine is non-linear. It's very much this. And
Yeah.
so, to be able to float in the canoe down the river, that sort of essence, which for somebody that likes to control or fears being powerless, can be
Mm,
hard to let go of the wheel a little bit and be held and
yeah.
supported, even though that's really fundamentally what we need. So, what
Mm,
are some ways that you recommend women can start practicing the feminine and this surrender and this essence so that
mm,
way they can be supported in their evolution to their greatness?
mm, mm. I I love that question. And this is a part, I mean, for me, being really open here, this is a big part of my own personal journey is really, I mean, at the moment, I'm very much in surrender. Like my whole, here I am in Barcelona. I literally don't even know why I'm in Barcelona right now. I'm showing up to something my heart was called to do. And I'm in total surrender. I'm like, universe, just show me where I'm meant to be, show me who I'm meant to meet. It's beautiful. And it wasn't always like that. Like I'm in my head, like I am that woman, especially coming from a corporate background. Um, so for me, a great tool for surrender is journaling.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think it's easier to surrender when you're really in touch with yourself and when you feel really safe just in your own body. It's hard to surrender when we don't feel safe. And surrendering, the uncertainty piece does have us feel unsafe. It totally hooks into that little girl inside, back the 5-year-old who, for whatever your life experience was, something might have happened that had her feel unsafe, and it just triggers that, and you become that vulnerable little girl again, and yet you're an adult, but you're this little girl that running the show. That's uncertainty triggers in a child. So the more we can, this is kind of a bigger conversation, but the more that we can create a really strong relationship with our inner child and a really strong relationship with ourselves, no matter what's going on in the world, we can feel safe, because it's like, I've got me. I'm here for me, no matter what. And I can, even as I say that now, I can feel that that really sort of drop into my body. Like I'm like, and I really do. I'm like, I'm here.
Yes, I do that too. And just even touching my heart or
Yeah,
even touching my belly, which is actually
yeah,
a very
yeah,
feminine place, it
yeah.
is so grounding and so
Yeah.
connecting. I mean,
Mhm.
and then speaking with tenderness, it just calms your whole central nervous system. It's incredible how powerful it is.
Totally. And, developing that deep relationship with yourself where you just know that I've got this. Like,
I
I'm
got your
here.
back.
I've got your
You're
back.
not alone.
Not alone. You are safe. It's good. It's all good. And I think, I mean, for me personally, historically in particular, that creating a journaling practice was really key for that because it just enabled me to just keep in touch with myself, like listen to the thoughts, notice the feelings, a space to express the feelings if I wanted to, swear and scream on paper, and just be me completely and develop that relationship with me. Equally, feeling safe in the world is around, I believe, our connection to the universe, to source, to something more, and whatever works for you, but creating a relationship where you just know that you're part of something more. And for me, meditation is amazing for that.
Hmm.
I like to meditate. It helps me connect with me, and it helps me to have an experience of being connected to more. So
Hmm.
both of those hand in hand, like
And
practice.
with a caveat with that, do you do that daily? And then if so, when you journal, like what are some ways to journal? Is it just free flow? Because I know sometimes asking a question and then
Yeah.
reflecting, so what are some of the ways that you recommend and the frequency that could actually help us stay in that divine connection?
Well, I think when you're first starting out, um, I really believe there's an element of like repetition is required. So, with my clients, I'm like, when we figure out what is right for them in terms of a daily practice that has her be connected to her, the majority of them, what feels good for them is journaling every morning, writing at least 3 gratitudes before they go to sleep every night, and meditating for at least 10 to 15 minutes every day, standard. And where I'm personally at now, I mix it up every single day. So I don't, because I get bored and I
Right.
don't,
I like variety myself.
I just do what I need to do every day. So it could be yoga, that followed by some journaling. It could be a meditation and journaling. It could just be a walk one day and nothing else. But as long as I'm doing something that has me feel really connected to me, um, really powerful journaling practice because a lot of people go, oh, journaling, like, where do I even begin?
Hmm.
Um, Particularly for women who are operating from here up, is to start with just a massive brain dump. Just get everything out of your head, right? Because there's stuff that's looping around. There's like to-do lists, and I need to call that person, and I'm worried about how to have that conversation, and this stuff, all the junk that's in your head, just scroll it down. It might be a lot to start with, but as time goes on, it gets a little bit easier, it gets a bit shorter. Um, and then after that, write some gratitudes. If you can write 10 gratitudes, that would be awesome, because what you're doing is you're downloading what's in here first. And then through doing gratitude, you're moving into the heart space. So you're dropping into your body. And then from the place of gratitude, then it's just free writing. And I like to ask a question. It's really nice. It's around connecting to my spiritual self. And it might be, what do I need today? Or what would have me feel great today?
Hmm.
Or how can I be of service today? Or how do I deal with that conversation today? Whatever it is, write the question, and just because you've cleared the clutter, you've connected to your heart through gratitude, then you're able to move into a space of connecting to your spirit. And with some practice, it's really bloody miraculous what comes through when you write from that place. Really
Yes.
amazing. That's where you really get to know who you are and start to feel really safe.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
found even in my own practice where I actually ask for whatever I'm needing,
Yeah.
being able to put in a
Nice.
request. Like once you find that clarity and that connection and let's say uncertainty comes up,
Mm.
For that, I usually say like, show me the way, or like, bring whatever needs to come to me that
Mm.
will help continue my direction, or whatever path, or whatever's supposed to be drawn, or whatever's supposed to resonate, and just
Yeah.
trusting in that. And I think trust is a big thing.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, I think that that's a prerequisite to being supported, really.
Totally, totally. And I've recently just read two books. I can't believe it took me so long to discover them, but I'm trying to remember the name of the author. The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment.
Oh, yes, yes.
By,
Yes, I
terribly
know what
I've
you
forgotten
mean.
his name,
I don't know
but
his name.
in terms of dropping into the feminine and surrender, the way he describes it is amazing.
Mm,
It's really beautiful. Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment, both
yes.
books.
Lovely.
Yeah. Mm.
Wonderful. So, last question, because I'm curious to see, for women that want to be more self-expressed and to communicate with confidence and authenticity and vulnerability, because I think you do this well, at least from what I've seen. Can you describe how you do that, and in what ways other women, audience members in this on this summit, can actually start exercising the truth of who they are in a more fully self-expressed way out in the world, whether it be in their relationships, professionally, so they're really liberated? Because I think that that's one thing that we as women need, is this liberation. I think it comes through our self-expression. Can you speak to
Yeah.
that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head about the vulnerability piece. It's just willing to be vulnerable. It's willing to just be willing to show up, warts and all, and like, this is who I am. I mean, I'm coaching a lot of single women right now who are looking for their life partner, and the constant questions are, well, so if he texts this, what do I say? Or what if on the date this happens? How do I respond? And I don't know how to have this conversation, da da da, because then maybe he won't like me, or maybe he won't reply, or maybe he won't get another date. And like, your guy's gonna love you, who you are, warts and all. He's gonna love every single piece of you. And they're practicing that vulnerability of just saying and being who they are. And sure, it's going to weed out some people that they're not meant to be with. And like, this goes for everything, like, you might upset some people. You might lose friends. You might, like, it might not work out as you hope. But it's practicing that non-attachment to the outcome. It's kind of saying, I'm going to speak my truth in love, and I'm going to love myself enough to say and speak who I am, and how I feel, and what feels good for me and what doesn't feel good for me. I'm going to verbalize that, and however that's received is for them to deal with. And as long as I'm coming from a clear place, from a loving place,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to speak my truth. And if it has ramifications, well, I have got to be non-attached to that. I have to allow other people their responses. I have to allow people to come and go, as is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And look, this is a practice. I don't feel like I can give an absolute tool here. I feel
Right.
like this is, again, it's the willingness, and it's being willing to practice it. And I had a coach once who would always say, it's awkward before it's elegant.
Mm. Yes, I
Right?
know that mentor.
Yes.
Yes.
And I took that on board, and that's absolutely true. It is awkward before it's elegant. You love that part of you that goes, shit, I got it wrong. I didn't say it quite right. That didn't come out how I meant. Oh gosh, I was trying to come from love, and I've gone a bit victim-y. Like, okay, so we're not going to get it right first up, and it takes practice, practice, practice. But speaking for myself and women I know, the more you can be vulnerable and practice vulnerability, actually, usually the other party get it. The other party, because when love is ruling it and you're being totally vulnerable, usually you're going to get a pretty lovely response.
Right.
Usually,
Yes.
and it just
Yeah.
takes practice. Yes, and it takes bravery and that
A
takes
lot of
practice,
courage. Yeah.
courage, hell of a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be courageous when you develop that relationship with yourself
Totally.
because you're safe here. Like
Totally.
I'm okay. So when you develop that relationship with yourself, having those conversations feel less threatening, less
Less
scary,
risky.
less
Right.
risky, less uncertain, because you're like, oh, I've got this. I'm
At
okay.
least I
I'm
have this. Right.
here.
Exactly. Right. And
Yeah.
then then it comes from a place of really abundance. I'm giving and
Totally.
taking a risk, but it's not like I'm empty and I have nothing left. It comes from
Yeah.
a different energy and also a different power because you're
Yeah.
more secure within. And then you
Yeah.
can, it's like a child, right? It's a gradual process. You have to
Yeah.
crawl before you walk, but at least you have your foundation and
Yeah.
then you can take the next step. So I think that that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly right.
Wonderful. So I know that we need to wrap up, but how can some of these women on the call be able to stay connected to you? I know you have a free gift that you'd like to share. Can you share what that is? And I'll include it as well.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me over at the School of Self Love, which is the School of Self dot love. And then if you want to know a little bit more about me, I'm at daringandmighty.com. So there's both of those sort of side by side. And in terms of a free gift, gosh, well, they'd probably like to receive my Living Consciously video series because that really, I was just sort of thinking on the spot then because I didn't actually think up something in advance.
Oh, sure. Yes.
But yeah, the living, because we were talking about the first step is creating awareness.
Right.
So the Living Consciously video series is literally 3-part video training around how to kind of wake up and
Mm-hmm.
get conscious. And yeah, it's step one to everything we've just talked about. So
Fantastic.
totally would love to give that away.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, this was just a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on our summit.
You're so welcome. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.